Why don't cannibals eat clowns? Because they taste funny. Hey, shh. Welcome back to Not Another Needless Sequel, where we watch movies and propose unnecessary prequels, sequels, reboots, and remakes. My name is Kane. Today I have with me Kelsey.
It's a day, everyone. It's a day.
You didn't come up with anything? Well,
This,
then you're going to
let
love
me
this.
just tell you, there's the.
This week with 2016's Terrifier.
You should have seen his dance, everyone.
I was miming.
He was miming. It was really dancing.
So what do you think the story was?
I don't even know. There's a clown who murders people.
Well, okay. So to preface this, before we get into it, typically I do my best to restrain my opinion of the movie until the end, especially to her when we watch the movies together throughout the week, but not this week. I couldn't. This is not a movie that we enjoyed, and it's definitely going to show as we talk about it.
It's the worst movie ever made. And I don't say that lightly. I mean, I'm afraid of clowns. And so it's not a far stretch for me to be that this is the worst movie ever. But I can still appreciate a movie like It. This was absolute dog water. Worst movie I've ever seen. I can kind of try and give a better plot. There's a clown. His name is Art. He sees two girls on the street, and one of them is being obnoxious and drunk. And that's when he starts his murder spree.
Yeah. So the movie opens up with an interview on a talk show with a woman named Monica Brown. She's interviewing a victim of a massacre, and she's kind of making fun of the woman in her dressing room later, and the victim attacks her. It doesn't reveal it until the end, but we go back and watch this massacre where that woman survived. So Tara and Dawn are sort of the main characters for a little while. They were out partying or whatever. They've been drinking.
It's Halloween.
Yeah. And they see Art the clown as they're like standing outside their car trying to figure out how they're going to get home, and he's just freaks them out. He's obviously very creepy looking. David Howard Thornton, who plays Art the clown, was the sixth person who auditioned for him, and during the audition he began miming tasting his beheaded victim's blood, but then added salt to it to improve its flavor. And that's what won him the role. And it does fit the character very well, so I guess that I can see that. He didn't play him originally because this character, Art the Clown, was in a previous thing called All Hallows Eve and like a short film that had to do with him as well. Like, this is just the first full-length feature film that focused on him.
Well, they should have just kept it as the short story.
Well, on top of that, the latex face mold that was used for the original actor for Art the Clown, they kept that exact same mold so that he would have the same look, and they had to fit it to David Howard Thornton's face. David Howard Thornton also had previous mime experience, and obviously he utilizes that through the entire film. He does not speak, he doesn't make noises, he just mimes. But he's a clown, not a mime.
He's a clown dressed in black and white like a mime. But the thing about it is that I could appreciate Art the Clown a little bit if there was any substance to the story. There was zero substance. There was absolutely nothing going on, and it was like they made the girls stupid on purpose.
Just some of the stuff, like, you're standing outside of your car, you're super drunk, and you see this very threatening looking giant clown, and then he kind of just disappears, and you're like, all right, well, we're gonna go get food. Call a taxi. What are you doing? Like, you're gonna go walk to get food? I don't know how far it was. I guess not very far, but they still walked to go get food.
And they're in like an abandoned part of town. They walk to a pizza place to get food. They're sitting down at a pizza place. He comes in and sits at the table and just immediately starts staring at one of them. But then Dawn goes over, sits on his lap and takes a picture. And he's just looking at her like, I can't wait to kill. You can tell it's a threatening look. It's not, oh, it's Halloween and I'm being creepy. It's absolutely threatening, and it's just a very uncomfortable scene.
So yeah, they're at this pizza place. They're waiting for their pizza forever to have this interaction with Art, and then
it's a single slice.
Yeah, when he comes out and hands them two single slices, I'm like, buddy, you didn't have that ready? Like, normally a pizza place has Slices. Anyway, Art gets kicked out of the pizza place, and then Tara and Dawn leave. They're now waiting on Tara's sister, Victoria, to come pick them up. Seemingly, I don't know, she lives an hour away or something. Like, ridiculous.
Also, they don't think anything of the flat tire, that Art could have been the one that did it.
Yeah, when they get back to the car.
Tara mentions it. Mm-hmm. The girl's like, no, he was harmless. Like, he's not harmless.
Yeah, like, it's just, you have to have some sense of self-preservation, and, like, even if it could just be a guy dressed as a clown, but he's acting very uncomfortable, like, and it's just dumb. But when they're back at the car and they realize the car, you know, the tire slash, that's when they call her sister, so they're waiting on her, and they're just sitting in the car. So Tara has to use the bathroom, and so they see this guy standing outside of this abandoned apartment building, and he's like an exterminator. He's like bombing the building. And so she goes up to him to ask if she can use the bathroom.
In the midst of all of this, Art has murdered the two pizza place workers.
Yeah, he murders everyone in this movie. Anyway, she goes in there to use the bathroom. Art the clown pops in the car and takes Dawn and brings her in there. Then,
also, why didn't she lock the car when her friend got out?
Yeah, she's been sitting there this whole time with the car unlocked. And the exterminator is no longer with Tara because he was just like, you know, oh, you'll find your way out. Which, I'm like, you're about to bomb this place, is what you said, because of rats. And you can't let her find her way out. You need to ensure that she left before you poison her to death. But so he is off on his own as well, listening to music, doesn't hear that Art the Clown shows up and attacks Tara. He ties Tara up and he forces Tara to watch Dawn get killed. If you've seen this movie, or you've even seen people talk about this movie, you know the scene. Everybody's just like, that scene. It's just a scene there for like shock value, I guess. My thing about this is, every time I see somebody talking about this movie and defending it, they want to say things like, oh, you don't like blood in your movies, and like, that's not what it is. It's just that this scene is like, it's too long, too shittily done. Like, it doesn't look good, and it just feels completely unnecessary. Like, he could have killed her a million ways, and the way they did it is just this. It's that kind of thing that, like, when you see it, you can, like, imagine almost how something like that could feel, and it's just upsetting.
The thing is that they had to make the scene so long because there was no substance to the story, and it had to be at least an hour. It was only 85 minutes. So it's full with a bunch of bull fillers.
So Dawn is dead.
Tara escapes somehow.
I mean, it's just...
Then she dies.
It's like, there's not really a reason for me to get into every detail. It's a bunch of them attacking Art the Clown and him getting back up, and my thing is, they never fully, throughout the whole movie, every time they incapacitate him, they leave him wounded. There's a time to stomp him to death. Granted, you find out at the end of the movie he's some supernatural being, he won't die, but they don't know that. So kill him. Just sit there and stomp him to death. Explain it to the cops later. Stop leaving him. Stop hitting him for a minute and leaving him. The way that Tara dies is that she is hitting him with wood, and of course, between every swing, she's taking a minute. She's just like, come on, stop yelling, hit him, do what you have to do, stop wasting your energy yelling. And he is acting like he's wounded, maybe he is, and then he pulls out a gun and shoots her. I do want to say, because of all the shit that I'm talking about this movie, another thing I see people say about this movie that I don't agree with is they love it because it's funny. I don't think this movie's funny. I do think that part was funny because it reminded me of that meme, and I told you this while we were watching it, the meme of that old man, and he's like, somebody call an ambulance, and he's all bent over, and then he's like, but not for me, and pulls out a gun. That's what I thought of with him, because you think he's like getting beat up, and he pulls out a gun and shoots her to death.
Yeah, and then also the sister, Victoria, who like comes to save them, realizes everyone's dead, she gets beat up, and she actually incapacitates the clown. Like, he is knocked out. She doesn't kill him. And she has a chance to escape and just runs into a different part of the building.
Yeah, the building's layout made no sense to me, really. And I didn't really get why so much of it seemed like it was inside, but then also there was like a garage, but it doesn't matter. The point is yeah, she ends up not being able to escape because she's in this like garage and Art hits her with a car and
starts to eat her face.
Yeah, starts to eat her face. Cops show up because somebody called the cops. I mean, it's not worth getting into. Everybody else died. And the cops are telling him to put his hands up. He doesn't. He grabs a gun gun, shoots himself in the mouth. He is brought to a coroner's office along with the rest of the victims that are died. They mention that Victoria is still alive, even though she was having her face eaten. Art is revealed to be alive at the coroner's office. He wakes up and he kills the coroner, and that would lead into the sequel. There's also the reveal, like I mentioned, that Victoria, the sister that got her face ate, she is the woman from the beginning that did the interview and she killed the interviewee or interviewer. Yeah, Monica Brown. So I think this movie was fucking awful. I had heard so many good things about it, so I went into it upset that I was gonna watch it because I don't really like gory movies. And let me get to that as well, because I know that people are gonna come for me saying, well, you just don't, you don't understand, like, this is what slasher films are supposed to be, like, you just like elevated horror, like, all that shit, especially since we've done some of these elevated horror movies, and I've obviously praised them. I don't think that that's the problem with this. This is not, I hate it because it's bloody, I hate it because it's not elevated horror. I have seen slasher films, I've seen splatter films, I've seen torture porn films. I like some of them, and I don't have a problem with the fact that it's fits into one of or all of those genres. It's that the story was ass. The characters were shitty. The dialogue was bad. The shooting was bad. Half the time it's so dark you can't see anything. It's not good. They just wanted to shoot a bunch of scenes of a clown killing people, and they didn't know what to do with that. And I should try and give credit to the guy for getting this film made. It was a very independent thing, and I understand that, but the arguments that people make for it, like I said, with it being funny, it's not funny. I don't know what you like. Yeah, comedy is subjective, but what about it is funny besides the obvious, like I said, like the gun thing? Like, that's a surprising kind of shock of funny. I guess there's another scene where somebody hits him in the foot with a spike and he flips him off. It's just unexpected things like that you don't think are gonna be funny. And overall, I didn't think it was scary. I will say the scariest scene to me is that there's a scene where he is basically wearing a woman's body parts, and I think because of the way it was shot, where it was so dark, and he's doing an uncomfortable dance, and it's again, all around him, very dark, doing this dance, and he's this kind of skinny, very tall man, and so it looks really uncomfortable. That scene did seem very scary to me. It was kind of like a haunting kept in my brain.
Yeah. This movie is a 0. It's a 0 out of 5. Worst movie in the world. I don't know how else I can say it. I feel like you went into detail about all the things I didn't like about it, and that you didn't like about it, so it doesn't get anything, not even a half a point.
I did give it a half a point because I think it had that one scary scene, I think it had a couple of funny scenes, but I think it was ass, and I can't believe, and people have said to me that if I didn't like the first one, maybe I'll like the second one. It's a lot different, a lot better, and I don't believe it. I'm you're just trolling me, you're trying to trick me. So if you feel differently, let me know. If you really think somehow the second one's different, give me a reason to believe that, and I'll check it out. And normally we do a game, but just to go with what I'm saying here, instead of a game, here's a list of movies that aren't horrible but fit into one or more of the following categories of slasher, splatter, or torture porn, just so you know that I'm not against all these movies. Saw, My Bloody Valentine, I Spit on Your Grave, Prom Night, Psycho, The Last House on the Left, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Candyman, Scream, Evil Dead, Happy Death Day, House of Wax, Trick or Treat, Sweeney Todd, Final Destination. Watch any of those if you just want to see people cut up, but you want to actually have something to fucking latch on besides just murder.
I agree. All of those movies you named do have the murder and the gore aspect, but they all have a story and a point to it. There was no story, there was no point to this movie. Worst movie ever.
Worst movie ever. So, obviously, there was Terrifier 2, and Terrifier 3 has already been screened and will be releasing most places this week on October 11th. But what is your sequel?
Mine's a direct sequel. It's called Art vs. It. Battle of the Clowns. Clowning around. It's just Art versus It. Art has survived but has to leave town because everyone's on the lookout for him. Obviously, we saw him live at the end of the last one. He gets in that truck he used to run over Victoria and drives to a town called Derry. It just so happens that Pennywise has been reborn. It's on a year of his rebirth. Pennywise obviously likes to hunt children, while Art will kill anyone. Very quickly, with the two of them on the loose, people start to disappear in town. Their descriptions of both of the clowns are going around, and so people think that it has to be a made-up story. One day, Pennywise is heading back through the sewer to his underground place. Everybody, if you've seen the movie It, you know what I'm talking about. And he runs into Art, who's finishing a murder there. They each toy with one another, and Art gets mad, feeling like Pennywise is mocking him. A group of meddling kids figures this out while they're tracking Pennywise, trying to find their friend. There'll be a reveal later that it's none other than Bill Hader's son. You know the main character, Bill Hader from It 2, Electric Boogaloo.
You just chose one of the kids.
What's his name?
I can't remember his name now.
Okay, anyway. Bill Hader's son has made friends after visiting Grandma and Grandpa for the summer. They realize that there's two different evil clowns, but nobody in town believes them. Pennywise and Art, while the kids are tracking them, get into a huge fight over who should do the killing, but nobody speaks. Obviously, I want to keep that part there.
Yeah.
So Pennywise and Art start their fight, and over the course of the fight, they both realize that they're from rival clown alien planets that hate each other. Yeah, we're making this just as bad as Terrifier 1. Pennywise is ultimately able to kill Art because he knows Art's weakness and the weakness of his alien race, but Art doesn't speak, so he can't insult Pennywise to death. Right after Art is gone and Pennywise thinks he has the town of Derry to himself, Bill Hader's grandson remembers how to defeat him from dear old dad's stories back in the day, and all the new kids insult Pennywise to death, and there's no more clowns in the world, so we're happy.
But if he's alive, then that means what they did in It 2 didn't take, so he's just going to come back.
After It 2. Yeah. Yeah, what I was thinking is that there would be... Bill Hader's done this obsessive research over the years, and there's going to be like a stupid spell, almost like in Harry Potter. You know what I'm talking about? Like,
from whence you came you shall remain.
Yeah, something like that. Okay. And then he dies for good. There's no more clowns in the world, and it's a happy time.
Perfect. Well, I did something similar.
Yeah, you did. Also... I just want all the listeners not to come at me. I didn't write this because I wanted it to be a good movie. I didn't have much to go off of in Terrifier, so I don't care if it's bad. It's supposed to be bad.
Sounds like a needless sequel to me.
Eh?
So I did Art versus Jason.
Oh.
Art the clown is out for another night of brutal killings when he follows a group of teenagers into a local summer camp known as Camp Crystal Lake. As he begins his murderous spree, another figure appears. Jason Voorhees emerges from the lake as he hears his mother's voice demanding revenge on those who would disturb her resting place here at Camp Crystal Lake. Art confuses Jason with his miming antics and begins playing a game with him that Jason is not privy to. Art is keeping score of who kills more people throughout the night, but quickly begins to lose and fall far behind as Jason doesn't spend long with his victims before moving to the next. So as you know, Art does nonsense and takes years to do things.
Yeah, he does.
My man Jason just keeps on moving. Art is upset and tries to find a way to slow Jason down when he notices Jason has made semi-frequent trips to a small monument crudely built in the tree line. Art visits this monument only to find the head of Jason's mother, Mrs. Voorhees. Art steals the head and disappears. Jason, busy finishing off the rest of the campers who remained, goes once more to tell his mom of his deeds, only to find the head missing. So he goes into a rage, searching camp for Art. Art appears and has fashioned the remains of Mrs. Voorhees into a mask for himself. This infuriates Jason, and he attacks Art. The battle is long, and eventually Jason wraps his arms around Art and drags him to the bottom of the lake. Neither entity can die, therefore they live eternally staring at one another at the bottom of Camp Crystal Lake. Camp is closed forever after the aftermath is discovered by the police. Never opened again, never purchased by anyone, nothing ever happens again. They stay there forever.
With Jason choking him out, basically.
Yes. He's just holding him there.
Nice.
Stuck in the lake.
Nice. Sounds needless to me.
Sound like an insult to me.
No, it's not an insult. You know what I'm talking about.
Thank you so much for listening.
Sorry for our,
attitude.
Honest attitude this week. I feel like usually we do try and well, you're better about it than I am. Keep it pretty
Even when I don't like a movie, yeah. I normally feel like I find a lot of things. I'm like, but this was good. Remember Jennifer's Body? Wasn't like this.
Jennifer's Body wasn't as bad. I thought Jennifer's Body was the worst movie I've ever seen in my life.
This can't be topped.
It can't even hold a candle. I would watch Jennifer's Body every day for the rest of my life if I never had to see this movie again.
With that being said, I know because we worked at a movie store before, and there's a slew of movies that are horrible. And I know I haven't seen them, so don't come out here with like, oh, but have you seen, Killer Ticket Man? Like, I know that they're out there. The point is that this movie is such a, like, praised movie. And that's what makes it ridiculous. Anyway, we do appreciate you listening. If you want to talk movies with us, you can find us on TikTok, Instagram, Letterboxd, Threads, and Twitter. We are NansPod everywhere.
NansPod?
If you'd like to vote on whose sequel idea was the best, come by our YouTube channel for the polls, or let us know your idea with a comment, tweet, or you can reach us at needlesssequel@gmail.com. Links, as always, will be wherever you're listening. If you wouldn't mind, share a show with someone, leave us a review, and come back for more. We'd love to have you and hear what we can do to improve. Next week, we are watching Hubie Halloween on Netflix. Alright, take care of yourselves. We'll see you next week, and remember, punctuality is the thief of time.